Episode 3, let's get it. So basically, all three of those doctors, including the director, died. They end up going to the funeral, but then this detective goes there by the name of Lunge. He's trying to do his investigative shit at the fucking funeral. I'm like, really? But Kenzo's just trying to do his thing, help patients and stuff like that. Then he gets a call from the doctors saying that the twins, the girl Anna and her brother, abandoned the hospital. Where they went to, who the fuck knows? Kenzo's getting to the point where he's thinking about leaving the hospital and going back to Japan. Because considering certain people think he has something to do with it, that would be a terrible idea. Then they end up having a board of directors meeting. Turns out he ends up being the chief of the whole daggone hospital. He's got to take over some of the positions. And bottom line is, 3 of these doctors are gone. And honestly, he's pretty damn good at what he does. Later on, he ends up meeting up with Eva. Eva that probably heard the news or whatever like that. So now she's trying to get back with him. But he ain't falling for that bullshit. He like, man, fuck out of here. Then we jump to 9 years later, yo. He's doing his thing at the hospital, saving people, running shit. Kenzo we're talking about. Then on the other side of town, we got these police investigating something that it was a couple of more murders or whatever like that based off robberies. And they're trying to catch some guy by the name of Mr. Junkers because they think he might have something to do with it. So you're probably thinking to yourself, after 9 years, whatever happened with the case with the doctors or whatever like that? Well, this is what happens. Turns out how the doctors died was from some type of poison or a citric acid, right? But the acid came from candies. Remember when I talked about the boys' parents supposed to be some type of political figures or whatever like that, and people were sending all these goodwill cards and things of that nature, but they sent candies too. Now, who sent these candies? Nobody knows. Bottom line is that's the cause of their death, so obviously Kenzo couldn't have did that shit. So back to present time, Lunge, fuck it, we can go call him Lance. That sounds better. Lance is looking for the murderer, and he thinks it's this guy by the name of Mr. Junkers or whatever like that. But here's the funny thing about this shit. We get this scene where Mr. Junkers is running from somebody or whatever like that, but then he runs out in the middle of the street, accidentally gets hit by a car. They take him to the hospital, and guess what hospital he lands up in? The hospital where Kenzo is at. So Kenzo gets to the hospital, and he ends up seeing Mr. Lance there, so you already know what time it is with that. Lance tells him the situation about Mr. Junkers, and he's like, yo, we gotta make sure he's good, for our police protection or whatever like that. But Kenzo's like, look, I don't just do this for the police, I do this for the people, the patients. Now, throughout this time, he has not seen the dude Lance in 9 years. And they basically kind of closed the case off. But Lance is one of those hard-nosed detectives, and apparently from his recommendations and what he's done, he has never had an open case. Except this particular one. One of those hard-nosed detectives and whatnot. So he's suspecting shit right out the back. He's thinking to the back of his mind like, oh, this guy done upgraded, 3 dead doctors and the fucking director. The director's daughter called off the engagement. All this happened around the same time, right? So, his hair is tricking. But bottom line was, there was no evidence or proof that Kenzo did anything. So obviously, if Kenzo's not successful in making sure Mr. Junker survives this, Lance is going to be thinking to himself, But bottom line, the surgery was successful, but he was still unconscious, so he's like, laying in a state, but, he's getting back to his full recovery. So then when he's in the room alone, he finally starts talking to Mr. Junkers, and then, the only thing Junkers kept saying was, a monster is coming. Like, who the fuck is this monster? And that's episode 3 for you. I did not expect them to have a 9-year jump and shit. Anyway, time for episode 4. Let's check this shit out.